Good evening and welcome to the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center's program, Charles Fazzino, A Celebration of the People. My name is Andrea Bolander and I'm chairman of the board of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center located in Glen Cove, New York. As many of you know, our mission is not only to teach about the history of the Holocaust, but to combat racism and all manifestations of intolerance, to promote resistance to prejudice, and to advocate respect for every human being. This evening, we draw attention to the effort of one artist to promote those same ideals of tolerance and respect through his work, which has included a particular focus on heroes of the Holocaust. In 2016, I attended one of Charles Fazzino's art festivals. I had long been a collector and had long wondered how Mr. Fazzino became involved in focusing on Judaica and in specifically the Lower East Side. I had purchased one of his items at a gallery in New Orleans over 25 years earlier, and I was very happy to meet Mr. Fazzino and ask him if he had ever done a piece that commemorated the Holocaust. At that moment, he said no, but that he had always wanted to. And that started a collaboration at the end of 2016, which ended with the unveiling of After the Darkness, which is one of the pieces you'll be seeing tonight, in October 2017. To give you a little bit of a background, many of these pieces of work, Heroes of the Holocaust, were one-of-a-kinds, and we want to play this 2.5-minute video that they so graciously provided and produced in 2017. Thorin, can you show the video?
The Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center and Museum in Nassau County, Long Island, debuted Charles Fazzino's collection, The Heroes of the Holocaust, in October of 2017. The focus of the exhibit is the faces of the Holocaust sculptures. Each one is based on historic fact and captures the heroism of those who saved Jews during the Holocaust. 3 of the first 4 heroes he chose to profile are relatively well known: Oskar Schindler, Raoul Wallenberg, and Irena Sendler. The 4th is revered as a local hero. As a child, Alicia Appelman Yerman survived the war but lost her entire family to the Nazis. She went on to save thousands of Jews, including the mother of a museum board member. These are the first 4 of what will be a larger collection as Fazzino continues to add to the set.
The Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center of Nassau County is proud to host this exhibition of Charles Fazzino's work titled The Heroes of the Holocaust. Our mission is to teach the history of the Holocaust and its lessons through education and community outreach, and Charles has given us an incredible tool to use. This collection of art created for this exhibit is an important step in preserving the visual history of the Holocaust. But what's most interesting about it is that despite the solemnity and seriousness of the subject, Charles has managed to capture the tremendous hope and promise that also came out of this horrific event. In his innovative and imaginative way, Charles has paid tribute to the resilience of the Jewish people, the compassion and kindness of those who sacrificed their lives for others, and courage and hope of those who did not survive. His work sheds new light and historical significance on the Holocaust, and we are proud to be one of the first of many institutions to exhibit this collection in our museum.
I'd like to encourage all of you to type any questions you have during our program in the Q&A window. Charles or his assistants will make sure to respond either during or after the program. And with those introductory remarks, Let's get on with the show. Julie, take it away.
Are we on? I think our video's been turned up. There you are. Hello, Charles. How are you?
Hey, everybody. And how are you, Andrea? It's nice to work with you again. It's been a while that I've seen you. And now with COVID, it's been really crazy. And I haven't actually seen many people at all. And it's great that tonight you can really bring all your friends and people involved with the museum here to my art studio to see some of the work that I've been working on during COVID, and then work that I was working on before for the Heroes of the Holocaust exhibit, pieces that were exhibited. So yeah, thank you so much.
So tonight we're going to be focusing on the collection of Judaic art that you have created over the last 30 years. And so we're going to have a little bit of a conversation. We're hoping that folks will chime in with some interesting questions. But, you know, I'm going to start right from the start, which is to ask you, Charles, you know, you're most famous for painting New York and cities around around the world. But, you know, how did this collection of Jewish art develop? How did it begin?
Well, it goes back to my college days. I went to School of Visual Arts on 23rd Street on the East Side. And for lunchtime, I used to take the bus down to the Lower East Side and to Little Italy to eat lunch and go to all the delis and so forth. And shortly after I graduated from School of Visual Arts, I decided, what am I going to draw? I wanted to do some local outdoor art shows. I chose one, the Washington Square Art Show in the Village. And I took some of the pieces that I created before and after school, pieces that I was painting on delicatessens like Katz's, Yoina Schimmel's, all the places that I was eating, Russ and Daughters, you name it. So I included a lot of these pieces at my early shows in the Village, and people really loved them and thought that they were colorful, fun, and so much of New York. So through the years, I just continued to show my pieces, and finally, I had a lot of gallery owners, many of them that were Jewish, that loved my Jewish pieces and pieces on, you know, the Lower East Side. So I started to put together this real collection, making these my three-dimensional prints in the early 80s, and continued to show them. And they just became this huge following of people that just loved them.
So talking about the beginning, I'm going to actually scan around here and we're going to look at one of those early Lower East Side prints. This piece is called Dancing on Delancey. Do you remember the year it came out?
Oh, I think it came out in the mid-'80s, this particular piece.
Okay.
And it's really a collage of the area. So it's Delancey Street, and you can see the Delancey Street bridge in the background. But you also see places like Cohen's Opticals and Shapiro's Wine Store. I put Yoina Schimmel's there even though it wasn't there, and Ratner's, and many other places. If you look back towards the back of the piece, you'll notice places like Triplets, the Romanian restaurant, and Lou the Pickle Man. I remember walking down many of the streets and eating a pickle, and it's just like a piece that really captures the essence of the area in the 1980s. You'll also notice outside the catering hall is a wedding going on. So it's just a lot of fun, and I had a lot of fun doing them. It was very well received.
I think what I think is the coolest about this piece, being that it's from the 80s, is that right above it, we sort of have another version of the Lower East Side that you've done more recently. And it's amazing to see sort of the evolution of style and detail and color. Tell us about this piece.
This one is called Verklempt and Vermischt in the Meshuggah City. So it's sort of a newer take on the Lower East Side. And on this one also, I took the essence of all of the streets of the Lower East Side into this. And you can see all the way up at the top, you'll notice Fiddler on the Roof. So it has a lot of things that have to do with Jewish life on the Lower East Side and how it was back then. And it's just another fun piece. You see dancing pickles and bagels and hot dogs, all my favorite foods, and famous appetizer stores. And it's just a great place and a great piece, and it's very popular today.
So I think I just want to just pan out just a second and have you guys take a look again at the Flemish piece and then at Dancing on Delancey. And I think you can see quite clearly the evolution of the Fazzino style, palette, imagery. I think that's just really neat.
Yeah, the colors today, I think, are even more brighter than I used to do in the 1980s. My color palette is much stronger, brighter, and silk screening is a little different as well. Remember, each one of my pieces are hand silk screened. They're on rag paper, and they're almost layered like a lasagna in 3D. So for the viewer looking at them, they look like a pop-out book. And that's really what gave me my idea many years ago, because I love pop-out books.
So what I'm going to do here is we're going to show you guys a lot of things today. They're not necessarily going to be in the right order, but we don't want to make you sick by moving the camera too quickly. So I'm going to come over here because the next thing that we actually have on our wall is the original painting from the Heroes of the Holocaust exhibit. Charles, I'm hoping that you can sort of talk us through the creative process and what you were thinking about when you created this masterpiece.
I wanted the center focal point of the exhibit to really signify the importance of the heroes and how many people, you know, took chances in their lives to save people that they didn't even know. And so as you look at the piece, you'll notice that surrounding the whole thing, I did lots of research on all the different people that were involved in saving Jews during the war. And I made them into newspaper articles, even though many of them weren't. They were, you know, pieces of information that I got from the internet and so forth. And then as you look down towards the middle of the piece, you'll notice a beautiful rainbow with butterflies. And that's really a significant theme that's in many of my pieces. You know, butterflies and the rainbow really signify metamorphosis and change and beauty. And then down below, you'll also notice that there is many, many different people of all different types of nationalities that it's sort of a sign of hope, a beacon of hope.
This is the liberation of a people and all of those who contributed to saving them.
Yes, and you see a long road of all of them lined up, you know, going to a better life, you know, hoping for the end of this horrible war.
And this is an original painting. It is actually not for sale because why?
We're hoping, obviously because of COVID, it kind of put the stop on a lot of things, but I want this piece to be able to be the focal point of another traveling show for this exhibit.
So it's part of your private collection.
It is, yes.
What I want to do now, though, is let's talk about some of the more recent images that you've done. This is a piece.
Oh.
Right. Can you tell us a little bit about this limited edition?
Yes, for quite a few years, I've been doing a series of star pieces that have to do with the Star of David. And inside, I've included different areas of Israel. This particular new edition is called a Star of Unity. I've created pieces in the past. One was called Star of Hope, a Star of Light, a Star of Peace, and this one is called a Star of Unity. And again, you can see the reoccurring rainbow and the doves in the sky flying over Jerusalem. And it's just a beautiful piece that I've actually hand paint in the gold leaf on the star. And it's colorful and three-dimensional, just like all my other pieces. And it's a limited edition of 200 pieces.
Do we have any questions for
Yes,
you?
we do.
Oh, we've got a few questions from your audience at the moment.
We actually have a couple of questions. We're going to start with Noah. Thank you for asking a question, Noah. He's actually he creates 3D sneaker themed art.
Okay.
So his question is, why do you cut by hand as opposed to machinery?
I haven't really felt that a laser cutting or anything else, that cut out puzzles is accurate enough. You really have to be super accurate when cutting and gluing my artwork, and nothing seems to do it like handwork. And also, it's sort of, my artwork is all made by hand. They're handmade silk screens, many of them. And I want the whole process to be a hand process made by hand, which also allows me to make each piece different. And I think people really enjoy that when they look at my artwork. It's different than many other artists, because when somebody makes a print of their artwork, each one is identical. With my artwork, each one is unique.
We also have, staying on the Star of Unity, we have another question. What material is the Star of Unity constructed out of, and is there any significance attached to the material?
I use a 100% rag, acid-free paper. The bottom board that we build the layers on, I call it layering like a lasagna. Each layer of print is cut out by hand and then layered like a lasagna onto a thicker board. Even the subsequent layers that are cut, all of them are also hand printed on a acid-free rag paper.
There's your answer, Magdalena. Thank you for asking that great question. And then continuing on the subject of Jewish art, we have Gail, who's asking us to discuss the celebration of heritage and the series of those 4 pieces you created.
I think it was back in the year 2000, I decided to do a piece that really celebrated Jewish life. Doing all these Jewish pieces, I've been studying so much before in books and now, of course, on the internet. And I've been sort of collecting this body of information, and I wanted to put it all together into a series. And the first one was called Celebration of Life. Then a good friend of mine asked me to do a ketubah for her wedding, and so I decided to do the next piece called Celebration of Love as a ketubah that can actually be signed by the family and the rabbi and everybody on it. The third one was Celebration of Heritage, and the fourth one was called Celebration of Spirit, which was stories from the Old Testament, from the Bible. And it was just a hot series.
It was
I
a
can't tell you.
4-piece series. Unfortunately, we don't even have it hanging here because most of them are
It's
sold out.
The only one that was left was, and we still have a few in the edition, is Celebration of Spirit,
Yeah.
the stories from the Old Testament.
But speaking of, sort of the heritage and everything, I want you to talk for a second, Charles, about this other piece that's behind you.
Sure.
It's called Hanukkah Around the World. And
Yes.
can you tell us, sort of, this is, obviously it's just focused on one particular holiday and one particular piece of the Jewish spirit. But can you tell us how this piece happened and what it's about?
Yes, a friend of mine, his name is Rabbi Hanowitz, and he's up in Monticello with the Chabad. I had this idea to do this piece about all the different menorahs that I've been seeing around New York and Long Island. And he said to me, they're all over the world. There is Chabad menorahs in so many different countries. So I decided to do a piece, and I said that I would donate a portion of the proceeds to the Chabad. So if you look at the piece, you'll notice all the different countries that have menorahs and of different shapes and artistic designs. And I just thought that they were beautiful and artistic. And if you look down at the bottom, you'll notice we're in Brooklyn, and the main Chabad house in Brooklyn is a center focal point. But then it goes out to all different areas, Russia and Paris and London and all places that Jews celebrate Hanukkah around the world. And it's been a really hot piece too.
Well, and the process of working it through with the rabbi was kind of fun.
It
and
was,
neat.
yeah.
So while I'm over here, I'm just going to pan up a little bit and show folks this piece. It's called A Light for Israel. I'm not that tall, but I'm going to try to get up there. This piece is, when was this done?
This is already about 10 years ago. It was a big edition that I made, and it's been selling worldwide, and it's been very popular.
Great. So we just had a question. Somebody wanted to know if this piece that I was showing is 3D. And actually on the wall at the moment, it is not, because we didn't have time to get one actually hand cut and glued, but it will be 3-dimensional, which sort of leads us to our little segue over here. I'm going to just pan around. And one of the most often asked questions that we get is, how is the 3D artwork done? So we're going to show you right now. We have Charles's art director, Jamie Cancel, here.
How you doing?
And he's actually working currently right now on a Star of Unity piece. Charles, you want to talk us through sort of, what Jamie is doing? And, people need to understand this is the way that every single piece is done, all by hand, just like this.
Yes. Each one is unique. So it starts off with somebody who has a really good dexterity and be able to cut with an X-Acto knife. And it's almost like I call Jamie the surgeon. And he can cut out these things as fast as somebody who was using a laser printer, for instance, to cut something out. Each one is hand cut out and layered. So he's cutting out one layer right now, and then we'll actually do a second layer. And you can see some of the pieces that are already cut out, and the intricacy of each cut is precise. And then they, as I had said before, they're layered like a lasagna, layer by layer, built up in layers.
So Jamie, can you show us how you glue some of these
Yes,
pieces
of
on?
course.
Yeah.
So it kind of goes from this mishmash over here
You see?
of puzzle pieces
Puzzle pieces.
to that final piece that you saw. And what happens is Jamie will match up the pieces, and he does actually have, there's a really special technique to this in terms of how the artwork is angled, how the glue is applied, in order to get the effect that Charles is looking for in the 3D-ness of the work.
Yes. And a lot of people say, well, oh, I'm surprised Charles isn't doing it. Well, the whole thing is that I'm producing so many different pieces for so many different galleries, and I have to have help. So I'm asked that so many times at different art galleries is, do you have help? And yes, I do. I have many artists that are working with me at the studio, and they help me cut and glue. I do the sample pieces, and then they follow what I do. And you can see each piece is hand glued with a special type of silicone adherent and adhesive, and then it gets turned over and then layered, layer by layer. Some of the pieces that I do are multi-layered, and some are just 2 or 3 layers. It just depends on each particular piece and part of the addition.
And you see in the pieces almost already look in 3-dimensional just by putting 2 pieces already on it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's going from flat to 3-dimensional. It's all done by hand. And then at the end, it gets embellished with the glitter. Now, one of my favorite stories that you tell, Charles, is why you actually started using glitter on your pieces.
I actually started using all these embellishment color paints and glitters to cover up my boo-boos. So as I was cutting in the early days back in the 80s, it was just so easy. I went into an art store and found these great glitter glues and all these different types of paints, and I used them to cover up the overcuts. So I started sending them out to galleries in those days. Some were just the pieces without glitter and stones, and some had the glitter and stones, and immediately many of the galleries called me back and said, why are these so blah looking, and these with the glitter and stones look so fabulous? And so I purposely started doing the glitter and this Swarovski crystals. And the reason why they shine so much is because they are real Austrian Swarovski crystals. We get them right from Swarovski.
This is kind of a perfect time to ask Meryl's question. Meryl is asking, how long does it take to make a piece like the Star of Unity?
Star of Unity from beginning to end may take a few hours to possibly being able to do 1 or only 2 in a whole day.
For the
So
3D process. But
for
what
the
about the
3D
creative process
The
too,
creative
Charles?
process may take months. So I do research into the subject, decide what I'm going to draw, and that's how it starts. Yeah, but they're very time consuming.
Do you have another question over there, or
Yes,
shall
we
I
do
move on?
From Maura. She's asking, do Jewish pieces have such a feeling and emotion? Do you have any Jewish roots in your family?
I have a Jewish aunt, my Aunt Rhoda, but besides her, and my sister-in-law is from South Africa and she's Jewish. But my roots, no. My mom was Finnish from Finland and my dad was American, but Italian. But I think many people really like my view of Jewish life because it's coming from a Gentile. So it comes from a totally different view.
So I'm going to just move to right behind you because this was the piece Andrea even talked about in her introduction. This is the piece called After the Darkness, which was sort of the focal point from a limited edition standpoint of the Heroes of the Holocaust exhibition. And I remember us talking about this piece when you were making it, and the sensitivity that we needed to take and involve in creating this piece. And I remember sitting around your studio with the drawing for this with Andrea and Deborah and a few of the other folks. And, we were a little bit concerned about how they were going to sort of receive this piece of artwork. And luckily they received it, just as it was intended, which is sort of a sign of hope in the sense that although the Holocaust was something completely horrific, out of it did come hope and love and positive future for the Jewish people. So can you walk us through this a little bit, Charles, and explain sort of the creative sensibility behind it?
Well, I mean, the way I really looked at this in the beginning, when Andrea and I were talking about, the Holocaust, I was like, I don't even know if I could create something, especially with my artwork, that would convey that sort of sadness. And because my work is all about happiness and color and optimism. But so I approached this in a different way. I really looked at it as, when I was doing research, I wanted to put in, and obviously the symbol of the worst horrific acts of violence, and that was Auschwitz. So I used that in the middle of the piece at the bottom, and you notice there's iron fences and so forth, and that horrible train tracks that people see. But if you notice also to the right and left, you'll notice that the countries and the cities that gave up their Jewish populations, I put it in darkness. I put all of the countries that gave up their Jewish population to the Nazis in darkness. But as you start going towards the back, you'll notice London and England is starting to turn into color, and Switzerland is turning into color. Those are the two countries that obviously were, either neutral or actively fighting the Nazis. As you go into it farther, you notice I put in the museum and the Torah, and I have this beautiful tree of life coming out of the center of the piece. And you'll notice again my butterflies and flowers, and it's the optimism of light over darkness. And it was the perfect name, After the Darkness, and that's what we called it. Now, this particular piece is only edition of 18 pieces. Most of them were sold, but there's a couple still left, and they've been very, very popular. And even though I wanted the whole Holocaust exhibit to travel, this particular piece has been traveling. It's been shown in galleries in Germany, in Austria, in France, in Japan, in Korea. It's been on exhibit in many, many different countries. So the object of what I wanted to accomplish, I accomplished because it's been seen by so many thousands of people. And it's just been a beautiful piece. It's available also in a smaller piece, and this is the premiere piece.
Right, so when you say there's only a few of these left, there's plenty of the other size of this.
Yeah, the smaller piece, there's more available, yes, because it was a bigger, larger part of the edition. Most of my larger pieces are smaller editions. They're more, limited.
Limited, yeah. So while I'm over here though, guys, I'm just gonna go ahead and show you, although you saw them in the video, this is actually one of those faces sculptures that was part of the Heroes of the Holocaust. This is Irene Sendler. No, I'm sorry, it is not. It is. It is Alicia Appleman-Yerman. I apologize. I was stuck on the other. And this is, you can see sort of how it was done on, her face is done on the plexiglass in the foreground. And then
The
parts of
story
it.
of her life on the inside, on different layers of plexiglass. And, you know, it tells the story of her plight and at a young age of trying to save people. And I understand she's a sort of a local hero here in New York.
And we also have here the Oscar Schindler Box. We dug
of
two
course.
of them out of storage for you.
Everybody knows Oscar Schindler because of the movie. And you'll notice that the portrait is in the foreground, and then parts of his clothing I opened up so you could visually see through the life of, you know, his objective of, you know, saving people and his accomplishments of how many people he saved. Even in the bottom of the box, I have a gold ring on the inside, which signifies the gold ring that his workers made for him out of their fillings in their teeth. And it's a hammered gold ring that's on the inside. And like each one of them, you know, the Arena Sendler, the Raoul Wallenberg boxes, each one has its own story that I've researched and then built a little sculpture inside that has to do with their accomplishment.
And the goal is eventually to expand that into a larger collection of faces as it begins to tour the world.
Correct. There are so many people that I would like to commemorate.
I'm going to come over here, though, and show them the sculpture. This was also something that you created specifically for the museum exhibition.
And this
Can
is
you explain this to us?
it's the Torah. And what I did was I folded the pages so it forms the word love. And then I surrounded the Torah in a barbed wire. And of course, again, the symbol of hope and rebirth, the butterfly. And each one of the butterflies, if you look closely, has Swarovski crystals and glitter. And it's just a beautiful sculpture.
Fran, do we have any more questions over there?
Yes, we actually have someone that wanted to know a little bit more about your non-Jewish related.
Perfect
Some
timing.
things that you may be currently working on.
Yes, well, especially during this COVID, it's just was crazy. But the silver lining is that it allowed me to create so many new pieces in such a short amount of time because I was in my studio and just had nothing else to do but work and create. So this is one called Experience the Magic of Manhattan. It's actually not released yet
You're
because
getting
we
a
just
sneak
made it
preview.
3D.
This is, nobody's seen this before.
Yeah, and it's New York, and you see it's the harbor, the whole shape of the city. And it's just a fun piece with flying kites and just a feel-good piece about New York. Hopefully the city will return to that soon.
I'll give you guys a little bit of a closer. This is, you're getting a sneak peek from Charles's private studio. This has not been released. You will not see this in any art galleries yet. And then, interesting. I do have a question here that, you know, although you're not Jewish, how did you get so interested in the Jewish life and Jewish art?
Well, I think, you know, a lot of experiences come from your stomach. And I love Jewish food and delis and so forth. And that's, you know, how it starts. I really got into, you know, spending time and with friends down in different restaurants, and a lot of things that sort of come up and talked about are over food.
So I'm going to just turn around right here. This is kind of our featured release right now. This is a piece that we have released. We released it towards the end of last year, and it's gone all over the world. And it is about all over the world. Can you explain what this is?
Mm-hmm. This was just released, you know, like I said, during COVID. And it's called Celebrating Our World, the Best Is Yet to Come. And I really wanted a piece that sort of celebrated the new year that was coming, 2021, in the hope that things will get better very soon. And as you look at the piece, you'll notice that there's countries all over the world, and everybody is celebrating the new year and hoping for the end of this virus. And that's, I used color and fireworks really to symbolize the feeling of a new year.
And the crystals on this piece are incredible.
And an enormous amount. We use about 1,000 Austrian crystals in each one of these, and they're signed and numbered in limited edition.
Let's talk about this piece right here, Charles, because, you know, as we mentioned at the beginning, you're famous for painting New York and cities around the world. And this is a relatively new edition on Paris.
Yes, this is a new Paris piece, and it is printed in silkscreen, and the colors are extremely vibrant. And it's a piece on Paris, and there's a bicycle race going on down through the middle of the streets, and hot air balloons are flying. It's dusk, and people are in the streets celebrating and eating French foods, and it's just a whole piece that celebrates the Paris lifestyle.
At the risk of making everybody a little bit dizzy, I want to show them something that they really don't see much of in the galleries right now, but there's something very special that you do. And these are your hand-painted guitar sculptures. Can you tell us a little bit about what we're looking at right now?
Besides painting on canvas and flat canvases, I also paint on surfaces like guitars, helmets for the Super Bowl, and they're all painted the same way. They start off with a regular pencil sketch, and then from the pencil sketch, I start to hand color it in. I trace off the areas, cut them out, and then glue them together, and then they get shot with car glaze, and that's what gives them that beautiful shine. Let me open this and show you.
Oh, it's even better. Good idea. We'll get in a little bit tighter on it. And sort of see it's like a 3D painting on an actual guitar.
And each piece is a one of a kind, and this particular piece happens to be a Rolling Stones theme. And I do all sorts of themes, you know, like Beatles and hard rock, folk, country. I've done so many different guitars, and we even made some for the Grammy Awards for the that were donated to raise funds for the Grammy Arts.
Speaking of other types of objects that you paint on, right above that guitar is a skateboard.
Yep. My daughter's idea. She's an artist as well, and she was painting on skateboards. She said, "Dad, you have to start doing some pieces on skateboard decks." So I was like, "What was it? What is that for?" And it was just so funny. And you can see that it's actually on a skateboard deck. And each one is created in limited edition of 75, and this one is a piece on New York in black and white. And I also have been making a few in color. They've been really well received too.
So we'll continue on our tour. Something else that is very special that you won't see in any art gallery, in fact, it's never left our studio, is this 5-foot sculpture that you made in the shape of a question mark. And I think it has to do with the questioning of the future of the world's financial markets, does it not?
Yes, and how it's been up lately. But when I created this, the stock market was, you know, going up and down. But it's just a fun sculpture that I created in the shape of a question mark, because you really have to question the stock market. And it has the buttonwood tree where people used to, years ago, trade under, and you see the subway underneath the ground. I created a bank and different symbols that have to do, you know, with the bull and the bear, and old world trading with a ticker tape, and new ways of trading, which now is mostly digital. But it's just a fun piece. But I love working on shapes and not just on flat surfaces. It's just fun.
So speaking of shapes, I can see, and they can see also, some other shapes that you've recently worked on.
Yeah.
One of the things that you do is, I think this year was our 21st Super Bowl.
Yes,
That you
I've been
commemorated
creating
for the
artwork.
NFL.
Yes, for the NFL for the past 20 years. And every year I create a whole collection of pieces. This one was for this year's Super Bowl in Tampa. I was not there this year because of COVID, but we still had many online exhibits. And this is one of them that was not sold during the exhibit, and it's a piece on Tampa. And the interesting thing about it is that, you know, Tom Brady and on the Bucks won in Tampa, and that just makes it very, very unique. Each one of these are hand painted by hand embellished with Swarovski crystals, and each one is unique. And as you can see, I do all different
Yeah, let's take a look at
different
some of these.
NFL teams. Here's one of a smaller Super Bowl piece. It has the two teams, the Bucks and Kansas City, that were in it, and it also comes with the final score. And then some I just make of small mini helmets of different teams, NFL teams.
And of course, then there's the limited edition 3D artwork, but again, we don't have one to show them because all the ones that we made
Sold
have been
out.
shipped out to customers. So I am going to just return. Fran, how are we doing on questions? Okay, so go ahead with one.
Yes, I'm in many different museums and galleries. I show my work regularly in 20 different countries, and I've been involved with many museum shows. I've had some in Fort Lauderdale at the Art Museum, in Germany at the Helsbach Museum. I've had shows, of course, at the Holocaust Museum, and many other different museums. The Baseball Hall of Fame has my artwork, so many different places and many galleries everywhere.
Okay.
And then we also have another question from Rachel. Hi, Charles, longtime fan of your work. I think the whimsical, cheerful style really juxtaposes serious subjects, like the Holocaust, so beautifully. Have you thought of covering other serious subjects or tragedies?
So the question is, have you thought of covering other sort of events or tragedies like the Holocaust, given the fact that you were able to so successfully capture it?
I'm actually right now possibly going to do something for the 9/11 Museum here in New York, which is also a very, very sad subject. And they've seen a couple of my pieces and are very interested. That's obviously a very, very sad subject. And but like I said, my artwork is about happiness and color, and these subjects really are hard for me to deal with and to create pieces in that way. So I think I'll leave that up to other artists.
Although you have done a few. Remember, after the terrorist attacks in France, you created, I don't remember the name of the piece, We Cry Together. And it was about the Charlie Hebdo terrorist attack.
Yeah, with the Bataclan
Yeah,
Theater.
with the Bataclan Theater. And that was a limited edition piece that sold out. We gave that to our French distributor, and they sold it and raised about $30,000 for the French hospitals.
Yeah.
Yep.
So yes, I have done, through the years, different things on sad subjects, but it's not my favorite thing to do.
We have a couple of other comments which are, I'd like to read out. This is from Lynn. The comment or question. I grew up on the Lower East Side and am very familiar with all the places you include. Jones, the World of NYC. So thank you for collecting, Lynn. And then we also have another comment from Raina. We met Mr. Fazzino in Denver, Colorado at a gallery. We had lovely conversation with him, and he told me about this project. This was last piece my parents purchased before my dad suddenly passed away last year. My parents have vicious to Kadishes. I think it was their first Fazzino, amongst others. He adored Fazzino, was a Jewish educator in our community, and he would love to see this right now. Thankfully, we have pictures of this event. So thank you for sharing that beautiful story, Raina.
Wow. Yes.
So tell us about that bowl that's sitting in front of you as well.
I had created for the exhibit out at the Long Island Holocaust Center. And this was one of them that was that we exhibited at the center. And I took some hand-blown plates, bowls, and then hand-painted each one by hand, and then embellished them with Swarovski crystals. Each one is made by hand. And this one depicts Jerusalem. It's all done in gold leaf. And it just came out beautiful, and it was one that I wanted to include to show people.
I'm going to put out there to the crowd, we're going to keep working our way around your studio, but if there's anything that somebody has seen or they want us to show again or show better, please post a comment or a question in the question box, and we will get back over to that if we can. But for now, I want to start talking a little bit about your pop culture collection.
Sure.
So popular culture is another sort of genre that you have tackled over the years. And, particularly superheroes seem to be really popular. Why does the superhero theme seem to resonate with your work so much?
I don't even know. It's just that when I do introduce the superheroes into, a city landscape, just magic happens. And we're also familiar with, for years, comic books on, all our favorite comic book characters. And something about the bright colors that I use makes it really, really, the artwork pop. So my Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, superheroes pieces have been just really popular. Also, I've created a couple of Star Trek pieces and Star Wars and all different types of pieces that have to do with pop culture. And the interesting thing about it is that they're super hot sellers in like France and Japan, places that you wouldn't think they would be popular. They are.
And I think we can share a secret that you are working on a new superhero piece, are you not?
I am. And it's going to be sort of a collage of a few different superheroes all in one large piece.
So behind you this is actually also a brand new, relatively new release. Tell us about the pain and agony in terms of developing this sculpture, and what it took and what it is and how long it took.
This was my first attempt to do a sculpture, not molding it, but doing it in a 3D format using a computer program. And if you look at it, when it's finished, it's actually been coated in a silver chrome and then embellished also with Swarovski crystals. Each one is hand painted, and they are hand applied Swarovski crystals that we do right here in my studio. It's an edition of 99 pieces, and I made 99 in silver, and then I did a gold edition as well.
Over here. Everybody hold on, taking you for a ride.
And the piece was actually, the sculpture was molded in Germany by a famous company called Goebbels. And Goebel is a company that used to make the little figurines of Hummels, that company. So I partnered with them because I have a huge following in Europe, and so we collaborated together. I created the artwork, and then the sculptures were then shipped to me after they were molded, and then they were then embellished and so forth, signed and numbered here, and then we shipped them from my studio here in New York.
And while we're over here, let's take a look at an electric guitar.
This is a really fun rock guitar, and this has all my favorite groups like Maroon 5 and Madonna and singers, and it is just a beautiful piece with all my favorites on it, and it's all hand painted, and it's on the back and front. See, the doors are on the back. Bon Jovi, Kiss, and just a collage of lots of different rock icons. And each one is hand painted, even the neck. And you can actually play it. Oh, it's not tuned.
No. So, you know, back to the question though about painting sad subjects. I want to show these folks something that will also more than likely not be seen in any art gallery anywhere. And this is a painting called Coronavirus Threatens Our World. This is one of the first things that you sat down and did in an empty studio after we had to close our studio for business because of the virus. And you sat down and made this 4-panel incredible painting. Can you tell us about it?
You know, when I was sitting in my studio starting to work on this piece, I wanted to show the impact of that. It was not just here in the United States, it's everywhere and every continent. So I did it in 4 different panels. You see that there are 4 separate panels. And each particular panel is a different area of the world. And, you know, you have this huge coronavirus coming in and the impact and how the buildings have actually taken on this human emotions. And it took me actually 4 months to create this piece. Each panel I worked on for a month, on and off. So it took me 4 months to create this whole piece, and then I put it all together, and one leads into the other. So, you know, just to give you an idea, this is the United States panel, and you have the stock market, and you have, you know, Disney, you have Mickey crying in the corner, and St. Louis and Washington, D.C. And, you know, on this panel, it's the Asia panel. It has Korea, Japan, China, and where everything supposedly started, the Wuhan market. So, yeah, it's just a piece that so much emotion came out of me to create this, and it's all in acrylic, and it's on canvas. And it is not 3D.
No, it is not.
No.
And I must apologize that I can't get, you know, a sort of a head-on angle of it because I can't get far enough away from it, standing right in front of it. But I hope you guys can see what I'm seeing.
You see, I'm 6'4", and you see how huge this piece is. It's just a magnificent piece.
Yeah.
And then here, there are many other pieces that I have here at the studio. You know, I do some small little originals on Paris and Broadway, San Francisco. They're just fun pieces. This one is really cool. That's a seat back. And I got from Yankee Stadium, one of the last groups of chairs that they were selling. And you can see it's an actual seat back that I painted on. And it is, you know, the sort of the core 4 and things that were going on at that time of the core 4, the Yankee Stadium. And it's just a great piece, and it's framed in a really cool box.
Let's head back to your table over here and we'll field a few more questions. Hold on, everybody. Here we go. Jamie's still working away. Let's check in on Jamie and see how he's doing. So he's continued to work on this Star of Unity piece. Let's see how far he's gotten. How far have you gotten, Jay? Yep, see? Maybe halfway there.
Yeah, maybe.
You getting overtime for this?
No.
Do we have any more questions over there, Fran?
We do. Carol is asking, during your career, what is your personal favorite creation and what year was it produced?
I'm asked that question quite a bit, and my answer is always the same. Every year I have a favorite. So this year it's the celebration, celebrating the world, the best is yet to come. It's one of those pieces that just resonates with me. It really sets the tone for life today, after, and hopefully after this virus is over. So every year I have a favorite.
And we also have a question from Sharon. Tell us about your love for old cartoons that influenced some of your art.
Yes, that's a great question. My studios actually is here in New Rochelle, and before I moved in many years ago, it used to be Terry Toon Studios. So it's where Hanna and Barbera met, and they were working for Terry Toons here in New Rochelle. And it is a place that they created Mighty Mouse, I think Heckle and Jekyll, and many other cartoons were created here. There was 2 buildings in downtown New Rochelle. We're not far from the train station, and one of the buildings that I now own was one of the buildings part of this complex. And it's just a historical building, and that really had a lot of influence on me in drawing cartoons, because when I first moved in here, I was just so enamored with the thought that I was in a famous building where Hanna and Barbera started.
So I'm going to ask a sort of a personal question, in the sense that, you know, you probably travel the world 40 out of 52 weeks a year. You have not traveled since March. You've not been able to get out to the galleries and meet people. How does that feel?
It's actually very hard, because I'm a people person. I enjoy talking with people and having. I like to experience the expressions of how people relate and the feeling that they have towards the artwork. I'm told all the time that the artwork makes them feel happy. So during this time, it's been very, very difficult to be stuck in my studio. I was in my studio probably for almost 3 or 4 months in the early part of the pandemic with no one else around, just creating artwork. The good part about it is that I created this huge body of work that I would never have been able to in the past because of my travel schedule. But I do miss traveling, because as an artist, we learn by seeing, doing, and going places. It opens up your mind and broadens your view. And every time I come back from a different place, I can't wait to sit down to draw it.
Fran, got more over there?
We got a couple more.
Okay.
Let's see. Carol is asking, this question wasn't asked before, and I'm hoping everybody can hear me. I'm trying to speak a little louder. What was the first 3D you made?
One of the first 3D pieces that I remember making was Washington Square Park. I was participating in the Washington Square Outdoor Art Show in Greenwich Village, and I had created a painting on the village and took it to a local printer, cut it into pieces, made my 3D because I was trying to make a pop-out version of it, and that was one of my first pieces.
I think we have time for 1 or 2 more, if you got them over there, Fran. Okay.
Lucille, I'm sorry, you asked this a little bit ago, and I just saw it. Is Charles available to speak to Jewish groups?
Maybe via Zoom.
Via Zoom, yes.
And let's see. Last one is more of a comment. This is from Debbie. I just wanted to say that I'm always amazed by your piece of JFK Terminal going down to baggage claim. It is so beautiful and shows the magic of New York.
How did that come about?
That really is one of my best pieces. Somebody had asked what is one of my favorites. That probably is that whole collection. I did 12 pieces for American Airlines that decorate Terminal 8. And I can't tell you, all over the world, wherever I travel to, people have been through that terminal and said, are you the same guy that did those big pieces at JFK? You know, the one when you go down to the baggage claim and the big plane? And I said, yeah, that's mine. So it's been just a wonderful thing, an exposure for me as an artist. And it's it was a great thing that happened. I met this a person from American Airlines, and we hit it off, and that's how it happened.
I think we're just about at the end of our journey
Maybe
here.
You can end by, Rosalind was asking if you could pan over the 2 pieces that showed Katz's Deli, so maybe the dancing on Delancey. And
Okay, we're going to go over here for...
Big Katz's is up there in the club on the left hand side.
One final question. When Raina wants to know, when did you know you made it as an artist?
Wow. That's a hard question. I still feel today I haven't really, I'm always going and hoping for, that big, great, cool installation at some famous museum. So I never really feel that I've ever made it. So, but, I've just been very blessed with so much success.
I guess we've got to, do we have anything over there? Are we good now? Can we get everybody in?
One last
Anything?
one from Carol. With your penchant for music, have you ever considered doing a piece of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and Museum and or Cleveland?
Well, believe it or not, I had a gallery that was showing my work in Cleveland for many years, and I'm very, very familiar. I've been there so many times. The gallery was on Mayfield Place in Little Italy, and I created many pieces on Cleveland. Even I've done a piece on Ohio State. It's just been a subject that's come up. And I have already done a huge guitar with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in Cleveland that actually sits in Cleveland Airport. I'm not sure if it's still there, but it was there as of a few last year. So it's a great, wonderful thing that they commissioned me to do a piece.
Carol Cunningham says it's still there.
Oh, it is?
So, and there you have it. I'm going to invite Andrea back in to join us. Are you there?
I'm
Andrea?
here.
You are
Thank
there
you so much.
to sort of
Charles,
wrap up our evening.
Charles, I thank you. I miss all of you. You guys have been amazing friends to the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. And I know you're the official artist of the Super Bowl, but you're also the official artist of the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. We actually, right in our front hallway, we have the After the Darkness. And I do want to tell all of you that Charles made me one that had my father's name and my father's Auschwitz numbers in it. And it's probably the one thing that my children fight over. So I may need to have more made. But it is so emotional when I walk in my house and I see that, and everyone remembers my father, and it's a permanent remembrance. And Charles, you've been so generous over the years, and tonight a very generous portion of the proceeds from the sale of any of the artwork to people who attended this webinar will be donated to HMTC. We have appreciated you from the time we met you, and I've been a collector since the late 1980s. And we just thank you. This was an amazing experience. And for those people who have enjoyed your work for years, hopefully when Charles opens up in New Rochelle, we can have an arts fest and invite all of you there. I would also like to say that anyone, and I did check with Julie, that people who purchase tonight, we can arrange to have somewhat of a field trip to go visit Charles's gallery and to see how the artwork is made. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, you can visit Fazzino.com, click on the purchasing information button, and when you send an email with the code HMTC, they will be donating a generous portion back to the Holocaust Museum to help Holocaust intolerance education programs continue, whether virtually and hopefully again in person. Julie, thank you so much. Charles, as always, amazing. And hopefully we will get to come back to your reunion dinner sometime soon.
Take care, Andre, and thank you all for checking us out and coming here and letting us show you artwork tonight.
Absolutely, and we hope to see you back again soon at the Holocaust Memorial and Tolerance Center. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Have a great night.